Every story leaves something behind, a whisper, a shadow, a question that was never answered. Here, we dig through the forgotten files, the unsolved mysteries, the chilling true crimes, and the horrors people wish had stayed buried. From haunted legends to real-life nightmares, every tale is pulled straight from the horror archives. So turn down the lights, put on your headphones, and step carefully, because once a story enters the horror archives, it never truly leaves. Tonight, 3 true stories from people who were trapped in blizzards. There's something about being surrounded by white, unable to see more than a few feet ahead, that makes you vulnerable in a way nothing else does. You can't run in deep snow, you can't see what's coming, and you can't always trust what you hear. Our first story was sent in by a listener who got stranded on a back road in Minnesota. He found shelter in a cabin that should have been empty, but the details inside told a different story, one that didn't make any sense. The footprints in the snow led to the cabin, but not away from it. That was the first thing I noticed, and I should have turned around right then. This was January of 2019. I was driving back to Duluth from my parents' place in Fargo when the blizzard hit. Not a normal snowstorm, a whiteout, the kind where your headlights just reflect back a solid wall of white, and you can't tell if you're on the road anymore. My GPS lost signal somewhere past Fergus Falls, and I made the decision to pull off onto what I thought was a county road and wait it out. I ended up on some unmarked Forest Service road that dead-ended at a small clearing. And in that clearing was a cabin. It was maybe 20 by 20 feet. Log construction, but old. The roof was sagging on one side. There was no vehicle, no lights, no smoke from the chimney. But there were footprints, a single set leading from roughly where the road met the clearing straight to the front door. Already half filled with snow, so maybe an hour old. I sat in my car for 15 minutes with the engine running, watching. Nothing moved. The wind was screaming. My gas gauge was under a quarter tank, and the temperature was -18 before wind chill. I made my decision and got out. The door was unlocked. Inside it was dark and almost as cold as outside. I used my phone flashlight. One room mostly. A wood stove in the corner, a table, 2 chairs, a cot against the far wall with a bare mattress. There was firewood stacked by the stove and old newspaper for kindling. The place smelled like dust and cold pine. No one was there, but something was wrong. On the table, there was a mug. I touched it. It was warm, not hot, not steaming, but warm like someone had been holding it 5 minutes ago. There was still liquid in it, some kind of tea. I stood very still and listened. Nothing but the wind shaking the walls. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe the person left out a back door. But when I checked, there was no back door. There was one door, one window, and the window was frozen shut with ice on the inside. I needed warmth more than answers, so I started a fire in the stove. It took a while, but eventually the cabin started to warm up. I sat in one of the chairs facing the door and kept my phone in my hand. That's when I noticed the cot. The mattress had an impression on it, like someone had been lying there recently. And at the foot of the cot, just barely visible in the firelight, there were a pair of boots. Wet boots, snow still melting off them. I stared at those boots for a long time. I looked around the entire cabin again. Under the cot, behind the stove, there was nowhere to hide. The cabin was one room. I was alone, but someone had walked here. Someone had made tea. Someone had taken off their boots and lain down on that cot. And now they were gone from a room with one door and one frozen window. I stayed because I had no choice. The blizzard didn't let up until almost 4 in the morning. I kept the fire going, and I sat in that chair, facing the door the entire time. I didn't sleep. Around 2 a.m., something changed. The impression on the mattress shifted. I didn't see it happen. I was looking at the door, and when I looked back, the depression in the mattress was deeper, like more weight had settled into it, like someone had adjusted their position. I left before the storm fully stopped. I drove through near whiteout conditions on less than an eighth of a tank back to the county road. I made it to a gas station in Pelican Rapids, running on fumes. I tried to find that cabin again the following summer. I drove every Forest Service road off that stretch of highway. I never found it. I never found the clearing. It's like it was never there. But sometimes I think about those boots. Someone walked to that cabin and never walked out. And whatever was lying on that cart, I don't think it was the person who left those footprints. That one is unsettling in a way that's hard to shake. But the next story is worse. This one comes from a man who slid off the road during a blizzard in rural Pennsylvania. Someone came to help, or at least something did. The man standing outside my car window had no face. I don't mean that metaphorically. I mean the snow was blowing so hard that where his face should have been was just a flat, pale blur, and he was standing completely still in a blizzard that should have knocked him sideways. Let me back up. This was February 2021, and I was stuck. My Honda Civic had slid into a ditch on Route 6 outside of Coudersport, Pennsylvania, in the middle of the worst storm that region had seen in years. We're talking 2 feet of snow already on the ground, another foot coming down, and winds that were rocking my car even though it was wedged into the earth. It was around 11 at night. No cell service, no other cars. The road was empty in both directions as far as I could see, which wasn't far. I'd been sitting there for maybe 40 minutes, running the engine in intervals to conserve gas and keep warm, when I saw headlights approaching from behind. They were moving slowly. I felt a wave of relief. I put on my hazards and waited. The vehicle stopped about 30 yards behind me. The headlights stayed on. I waited for someone to get out. No one did. 5 minutes passed. 10. The headlights just sat there, idling, pointing at my car. I couldn't make out the vehicle through the snow. Just 2 bright points of light. I decided to walk back to them. I zipped my coat, pulled my hood tight, and stepped out into the storm. The cold was immediate and violent. I could barely keep my eyes open. I started walking toward the headlights, and after about 10 steps, I realized they were farther away than I'd thought. I kept walking. 20 steps, 30. The headlights didn't seem to be getting closer. Then they turned off. I stopped. I was standing in the middle of the road in total darkness in a blizzard. I couldn't see my own car behind me anymore. I turned around and started walking back, following my own tracks before they filled in. That's when I saw him, standing right next to my car, on the driver's side, facing my window. He was tall, wearing dark clothing, maybe a long coat, no hat. He was just standing there in negative wind chill, with no hat. And his face, it was wrong. The snow was clinging to it, or there was something covering it. It was just smooth and pale and featureless. I stopped about 15 feet away. I said hello. He didn't respond. He didn't move. The wind was tearing at both of us, but he stood like he was rooted there. I said it again, louder. Nothing. I started to back away slowly. I don't know why I didn't run. Something about the way he was standing made me feel like running would be worse, like it would trigger something. I backed all the way to the other side of the road. He still hadn't moved. Then, very slowly, he turned his head toward me. Just his head. His body stayed facing my car. I ran down the road in the direction I'd been driving. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs were numb. I must have gone half a mile before I saw lights from a farmhouse set back from the road. I waded through thigh-deep snow to their door and pounded until a man answered. He let me in. He called a tow truck for the morning. I told him there was someone on the road. He looked at me for a long time, and then he said something I still think about. He said people around there had reported seeing someone standing on Route 6 during storms for years. Always at night, always during the worst weather. He said they'd stopped calling it in because by the time anyone checked, there was never anyone there. In the morning, the tow truck pulled my car out. My driver's side window had a handprint on it. Not on the outside, on the inside, pressed into the condensation on the interior glass. I was not in my car when that print was made. No one was. I've listened to a lot of stories over the years. That one genuinely disturbed me. But this last story is the one that kept me up at night. It was sent in by a man living alone in Montana. What he experienced during a blizzard in December of 2022. I'll just let him tell it. This is the hardest one to explain away. My daughter's voice was coming from under the snow. She was calling my name, saying, "Daddy, please," over and over. My daughter died in 2016. I need to explain this properly because I need someone to tell me what I heard. This happened in December of 2022. I live alone in a house outside of Whitehall, Montana, at the end of a gravel road that sees maybe one car a week in summer and none in winter. When the blizzard hit on December 19th, I was prepared. Generator, food, water, firewood. I'd lived through 100 storms. This one was different from the start. The wind didn't sound right. It had a cadence to it, almost rhythmic, like breathing. I know how wind works. I know it can sound like things, but this was steady. In and out, in and out. It went on for hours. Around midnight, the power went out even with the generator running. I checked the generator and it was fine, fuel was fine, but nothing in the house was getting power. I gave up on it and lit candles. That's when the wind changed. It started carrying sounds, fragments. At first, I thought it was an animal, a cat maybe, or a fox, the way they can sound almost human. But it got clearer. It was a voice, a child's voice. My daughter Emma was 6 when she died. Car accident on I-90. I wasn't driving. Her mother was. Her mother survived. I don't talk about it, but I know Emma's voice. I knew it then, and I know it now. And what I heard coming from outside my house in the middle of that blizzard was my daughter saying, "Daddy." I stood at the back door and listened. It was coming from the east side of the property, where the snow drifts pile up against the tree line, muffled like it was coming from underground or from inside the snow itself. I told myself it was the wind. I sat back down. It got louder, not screaming, just more insistent. "Daddy, Daddy, please." The exact way she used to say it when she wanted me to pick her up. I put on my coat and boots and went outside. The snow was coming down so thick it was like walking into a white wall. My flashlight was useless. I followed the voice toward the tree line. The drifts out, there were 5-6 feet deep. I got close enough to pinpoint it. It was coming from a specific spot in the largest drift. Right there, right beneath the snow. I started digging with my hands. The snow was packed and heavy, and my gloves soaked through in seconds, but I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. My daughter was calling for me. I dug about 2 feet down, and my hand hit something solid. Not frozen ground, something else. It was smooth and cold, and it moved when I touched it. I pulled my hand back. The voice stopped. Everything stopped. The wind died. The snow kept falling, but silently, like the world had been muted. I was kneeling in a hole I dug in a snowdrift at 1 in the morning, and something under the snow had moved. Then it grabbed me. A hand closed around my wrist from inside, and that's where tonight's file closes. But the archives are far from empty. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe and join us as we uncover more horrors, mysteries, and true crimes hidden in the horror archives. Until next time, keep the lights low, keep listening, because you never know what story we'll uncover next.